thank you, everyone, for joining us today on the Pure Momentum Network. PureMomentum.net is where you can sign on to the second hour and subscribe. But right now we're in our first hour. This is Deborah Tavares with Stop the Crime, and our website is stopthecrime.net, where you can download any documents that you're hearing us discuss on today's program today for free off of stopthecrime.net. However, for those of you that may not be able to download, you can call the print shop that we have set up, and for the cost of printing and shipping only, they will send you whatever documents you would like from stopthecrime.net. You can call area code 707-586-9558. Once again, area code 707-586-9558. Now today, before I bring on my guest for the day, I certainly want to alert everyone to some of the just added articles that we've posted on stopthecrime.net. We are here in Northern California, and we are witnessing at this moment the intentions to quickly bring in the New World Order by taking over the water supply. And what we're seeing here in Northern California through these groundwater management meetings, which intend on creating monitoring requirements through the state and through all of the incorporated local cities, they want to control all country, aka rural, wells. And that would include residential rural wells and agricultural rural wells. But I de-emphasize, we're in the vineyards, wine country here in Northern California, and they're telling us that the largest user of groundwater via wells, which they say are straws that we're putting into the soil, are residential rural well owners. And of course, we know that's not the case. We know that we have absolutely many, many acres of vineyards here in Northern California under control of Rothschild and Company, and they're the ones that are going to continue to get the water as they continue to monitor, ration, and deplete our access to water. Another very important link on stopthecrime.net is the Climate Action Plan link to understand how all of you are going to be affected by the false science to bring in a New World government and to create a cover for the weather weapons and economic warfare using the environment. You will find that in your cities you have environmental plans. All you have to do is type in the name of your city and greenhouse gas reduction policies to understand what is occurring right now in your town, in your state. This is a global plan. This is the plan that will have energy audit assessors coming into your homes, putting you on massive databases and requiring that you have reduced greenhouse gas emissions by conceding to corporate requirements of appliance replacements in your homes and many other aspects of energy requirements. Now, again, not all of these energy requirements to reduce your energy use are bad. Certainly, replacing windows and adding insulation and putting weather stripping around your front doors is a good thing. It will save your utility cost. However, to change out appliances with RFID chips that, of course, increase the pulsed microwave frequencies as they are emitted from your appliances, feeding in remote information to the smart meters, again, going on to that massive smart grid that is a global deployment. We are finding that our homes are imprisoning us. People talk about the FEMA camps. Well, our homes are incarcerating us within them via the kinds of backdoor traps that are in all of our appliances, our television sets, and etc. Again, go to stopthecrime.net. Be certain that you watch an emergency town hall YouTube that we did entitled Who's Running America? Who's Running America and the Climate Action Plan. Pass that on to everyone you know. Again, everything on the site is a free download. Now, today we've got Ron Angell, who's been on with me a number of times. We have been presenting declassified military documents, unclassified. And today we're going to be talking about a specific document. It's from the Joint Military Operations Department, from the Naval War College, and the title of the document is the 21st Century Warfare, Theater Operations at the Speed of Light. And this was presented by Major Sean L. Jersey from the U.S. Air Force. And the date of this report was February the 3rd of 2003. And before I have Ron come in and make some comments, I'm just going to read the abstract of this report. Quote, commanders should begin integrating directed energy weapons, which are DEWs, directed energy weapons, into future combat operations. Laser and radio frequency weapons offer the ability to deliver precise doses of lethal power to distant targets at instantaneous speeds, thereby enabling revolutionary new combat capabilities. However, operational fires delivered by these directed energy weapons represent a significant departure from the use of current weapons. Joint forces lack a coherent vision of how to fight with directed energy weapons. Existing doctrine on planning, commanding, and executing operations is insufficient to exploit the full combat potential of speed-of-light weapons. While strong focus by warfighting commanders on missile defense has nurtured airborne laser development, the author contends it is time to vigorously pursue doctrine envisioning lethal offensive applications. Too strict a focus on missile defense is unintentionally constraining development of U.S. combat capabilities by limiting examinations of potential offensive missions for directed energy weapons systems. And they goes on to say that a visionary doctrine is needed to capitalize on the decisive combat capabilities that directed energy weapons offer. The author contends strong leadership by the U.S. Air Force and joint experimentation emphasizing spiral development will enable force transformation by facilitating assimilation of maturing directed energy weapons. Failure to adapt may result in ceding the high ground to enemies bent on reducing U.S. military advantage. And at this point, I would just like to point out on the homepage of stopthecrime.net, we have a link, a very important link entitled USA Inc., and I would certainly recommend that everyone take a look at Senate Report 93549 and understand your reality as far as the de facto government and the fact that we must enforce laws that have been on the books but have been completely overlooked intentionally to bring in this type of warfare that has now literally been directed at the citizens of the global population. So with that, Ron, I'd like you to go ahead and begin parsing through this document.
Okay. First, a little bit of background about myself. I went to the University of Michigan and studied physics. And in that, department, I was told by the three other individuals within that small department at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, Michigan, that I would have to work for the Department of Defense when I got out in order to find work. And I wasn't going to do that, so I transferred out of physics and into civil engineering and science. And I'd just like to point out that these directed energy weapons and lasers, argon lasers, I had seen burned through steel in the basement of East Engineering in the 80s. Okay, these weapons have been around a long time. We know from the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists, which was written and started by the former Manhattan Project scientists after World War II, to protect our planet and our biosphere and the humanity and the animals on the planet. We know that they disclosed early on the moral and ethical questions regarding directed energy weapons, microwave weapons, laser weapons, and of course the Reagan and Bush Sr. Star Wars in space weapons, combined with HAARP, Gwen towers, Nexrad balls, microwave cellular towers, and everything that we've been told is for now our benefit, from the weather prediction to actually the weather controlling radar systems to over-the-horizon radar with send and receive stations in Vieques, Puerto Rico, where the U.S. military base is, and then the receive station in Tibet, China. There is multiple locations of these directed energy weapons. I'm going to say that this gentleman, Major Jersey, is treasonous, and he is in violation of Air Force law. And we will go through this document, but take in mind that there was a law put in place in 2011 by the U.S. Air Force, directed energy weapons, at the order of the Secretary of the Air Force, Policy Directive 91-5, October 11, 2011, 60, directed energy weapons distribution unlimited. You are not allowed to use directed energy weapons by the Air Force. Okay? So this gentleman saying that these weapons were able to be used is treasonous, and he also is violating the Air Force law, as well as another law that's a federal law, and it's on it's on the Department of Justice website, it's on the FBI website, it's on the government website. That law is U.S. Federal Law, Title 18, Part. Hold on. Let's go with my notes.
Well, while you're looking that up, Ron.
Part 1, Chapter 113B, Section 2332H, Radiological Dispersion Devices. Special circumstances. If the death of another results from the person in violation of this subsection, the person shall be fined not more than $2 million and life imprisonment. So that's a federal law. So this Navy War College document, which gives very, very detailed photographs of the airborne laser operation. You can see, the plane with its lasers they outfitted on Boeing military planes. Raytheon also has this technology. These weapons are violating 2 federal U.S. laws.
Well, now, Ron, you know what the perpetrators of this would say is exactly what they said in the abstract. They would say failure to adopt may result in ceding the high ground to enemies bent on reducing U.S. military advantages. That is what they couch their position in wanting to go forward with all of these weapons of mass destruction. That is what they hide behind. But more importantly, too, we have to remember what John F. Kennedy told us only 10 days before he was assassinated. And he warned us about this monolithic, ruthless conspiracy that was going to conscript military and scientific, everything. And we were warned that something was absolutely out of control. And we've been warned countless times in the number of decades from very distinguished FBI quotes and CIA quotes that we were headed for trouble. And we see these documents. They enumerate the types of weapons that are going to be used. They talk about how they will use them. And this, again, is a theater operation at the speed of light. So while I appreciate that there's laws, we need laws, and we absolutely need to figure out a way to enforce the laws that are on the books. But
we are doing that right now with the grand juries that are forming. And
well,
I'd like to read.
I'd like to parse through this document also and let people know.
It's important. It says here these efforts are bearing fruit, meaning the directed energy weapons, with several weapons concepts being tested and developed together. The HEL, and RF technologies are mature enough to address a variety of operational missions, both offensive and defensive. Maturation of directed energy technology is providing combatant commanders with weapon systems that address critical missions. Okay, the Air Force-led development of the ABL as a shield against ballistic missiles is the most ambitious. Together with Israel, the Army is developing these weapons. Okay, and then it has some pictures of a SUV Hummer, General Motors, with a giant radiation disc that produces microwave energy. These are vehicle-mounted aerial denial systems, also known as active denial. And these are torture weapons. These are violating the two laws I stated earlier, which we will be placing up under this interview. One of them is an actual Air Force military website. It says no to any form of directed energy weaponization. Because what is going to happen is Russia and China have 10 years advanced technology in these systems. And they will use them on the American people to a degree. Because if we violate international law, which the U.S. has done since Rumsfeld used these weapons in the first Gulf War, Bush used them, George Bush Sr. used them, and they were deployed, and they actually burned Saddam Hussein's soldiers in Kuwait completely. And this is being covered up. We had done a radio show earlier where we disclosed the fact that this is covered up. The U.S. has already used these weapons on a mass scale.
Well, they're using them on our own people within the United States as well.
We're not sure who's doing it. It's very possible because we have not arrested Bush, Cheney, Rumsfeld, Rove, and all the perpetrators of the lies. That this is war. We are in a country that is the aggressor, just like Nazi Germany was the aggressor. Therefore, the American people have to wake up before it's too late, i.e., we don't want our country to look like post-World War II Europe with devastation, destroyed families, destroyed churches, destroyed lives, children who have post-traumatic. We don't want to see that in the U.S. It's leading that way, okay? We have yet, we know that Bush, Cheney, Rumsfeld are war criminals. They cannot go anywhere but the U.S. We are allowing them to continue in this country, in the haven, when the rest of the world says The U.S. committed war crimes. We know what you did. We know that 9/11 was bogus. Russia just released recently that the entire World Trade Center fiasco was a sham. Snowden released that, but they did not play that part on the news when he was interviewed by NBC the other week. Okay, this is the reason why the U.S. is in such dire straits economically. It is up to the American people to form grand juries and to restore everything lost. And it's up to the military, when each one of them swears an oath to uphold the U.S. Constitution. It is up to them to arrest these global criminals that have caused great havoc since the first Gulf War.
Well, even before that, we have been...
Since the assassination of the Shah of Iran, okay, he was assassinated by the CIA. That was the beginning. And then Donald Rumsfeld was supplying Saddam Hussein sarin gas that was used on the Kurds, and it was going to, we were, remember, not very good friends with the Ayatollah Khomeini. After the Shah was assassinated, the hostages were taken by the students. They were not killed. They were held in the embassy because they knew their Shah of Iran was assassinated by the U.S. CIA. Very similar to these strange things that are going on, like in Benghazi and such. It was a sham operation, but they didn't have the internet back then. They took the hostages. The hostages were to be freed by 51 Marines that were going in there with the 51 Special Force Marines and the 2 Chinook helicopters. Those 2 helicopters crashed. Donald Rumsfeld was behind the scenes, and George Herbert Walker Bush was director of the CIA in 1978. That was intentionally done so Reagan would win and appoint George Bush Sr. vice president. So that was the beginning of the treason.
Well, actually, Ron, I want to back up into that a little bit here for the listeners because, of course, what we have to establish is something most important. In fact, I just was alerted to a very important quote by Frank Zappa, and I think it's important to insert that right now and then go on to what I'm going to say. But quote by Frank Zappa, "The more you can escape from how horrible things really are, the less it's going to bother you, and then the worse things get." So we don't want to escape from how horrible things really are, because with knowledge, we can then change our reality. Now, what our reality is here in the United States is the fact that since 1933, and even before, when the Federal Reserve became debt notes, and we continued to operate under the idea that the Federal Reserve somehow or another was linked to our country. But that, of course, in 1913. But from 1933 onward, every single year, there has been an annual extended national state of emergency. And you can look this up, Senate Report 93549. It's on the homepage of StopTheCrime.net under the USA Inc. link. It's very important for everyone to understand. As long as the United States remains in an annually extended national state of emergency, the Constitution has been suspended, so have our rights, and all decisions are corporate statutes that are coming from the executive branch by executive order. This includes the establishments of corporate agencies such as the EPA, the Department of Homeland Security. The list is endless, and it's increasing every single day. And the only requirement that is necessary for this system to remain as it has been since 1933 is for everyone to participate in not knowing. So now you know, as long as we remain in an annually extended national state of emergency, and as long as all the decisions are coming from the executive branch via executive orders, we are under a corporate structure, and we are USA Inc. And sadly, this is what we must realize first and foremost, because we cannot rely on those that we think represent us to save us. And this goes right to what Frank Zappa was saying. If the more you can escape from how horrible things really are, the less it's going to bother you, and then the worse things get. So it's very important to understand our reality. I know, and we both agree, there are laws on the books, but because we don't have a system right now that is able to enforce these laws, we're in a bit of a pickle for the time being until we can get reorganized, as you were suggesting. There's many groups across the country that are working on a variety of solutions to the dilemma that we have. And so that is important to know. There are many groups working on these things, but I would say after this break, Ron, what we do want to certainly impart to the listeners is that there is hope, and the hope is understanding reality, and then the hope then is taking this information and getting it out to your neighbors, your family, creating safe neighborhoods, because we're going to see increased chaos in our neighborhoods as these frequencies, these weapons are continued to be used on the American people, in fact, the global human population. And I know that we're wanting to get back into this report, Ron, and we'll do that on the other side of this network break. You've been listening to the Pure Momentum Network. You can connect to us on PureMomentum.net. This is Deborah Tavares with Stop the Crime, and our website is StopTheCrime.net. And on the other side of this network break, we're going to pick up our continued discussion on the Naval War College document about the theater operations at the speed of light.
Courage is resistance to fear, mastery of fear, not absence of fear. Mark Twain.
Greetings and salutations. My name is Pamela Tartar. I host Factor 9 on Pure Momentum Network. Factor 9 is a show where I interview guests on various subjects crucial to human beings at this time and space. You be a factor with us, and together, multiplied, we will get the result we're searching for. Come join us on Factor 9. Pamela Tartar, Factor 9, Pure Momentum Network.
When the power of love overcomes the love of power, the world will know peace. Jimi Hendrix.
Well, thank you everyone for returning. We're picking it up before the network break on our discussion with Ron Angell about the document. Again, it's entitled The 21st Century Warfare, Theater Operations at the Speed of Light. So, Ron, I know that you were starting to talk about some of the aspects in the document, so I'll let you carry on with that.
Okay. Some of these directed energy weapons, as you can see from the document, have photographs within them. And so I suggest that you take a look how these airplanes and other craft have been modified with these laser weapons. And we'll take a look here on page 13. You'll see the Hummer with the directed energy weapons that are able to be used either on human beings to burn the skin or on actual planes. And then you'll see the fact that they're talking about radio frequency warhead-equipped UCAVs, and they go on to promote all the different benefits of these systems. He says, for now, missile defense is the sole mission for ABL, in capitals, in a deliberately crafted effort to sustain a long-term development program. Air Force leaders choose to concentrate on proving the ABL's primary mission while laying the groundwork for future adjunct missions, such as offensive counter-air. Okay, now we're talking about drones. They want to actually turn these weapons on the American people. I think it's about time that we all realize that what we've used in other countries has to be stopped, and that we need to write our congressmen and senators, send this document, and then send the Air Force directive saying that these are illegal to be used in the U.S., and they're illegal in terms of the federal law. The radiological dispersion devices are illegal to be used in the U.S., so why are we using them on other countries? And I think that we have to think for a moment that the Russian death ray exists and has existed since the 60s. So we could be under a major offense by other countries for the use of these weapons in the first Gulf War and other uses in the second Gulf War. And we just didn't know. Just like they said, well, the Germans didn't know the concentration camps existed, but we know now. We're disclosing it on all these radio shows. We can't remain like Europe before the end of World War II because the U.S. won't exist. It's a call to the people to wake up, to realize that this is not science fiction. Reagan initiated Star Wars. It was not to be used in space, like the Star Wars movie series from Steven Spielberg. It was to be used on people on the ground, and it has been used systematically, inhumanely, cruelly, and they're using it on the people that want peace. It's a form of fascist takeover of the United States. Every single person that works in government swears an oath to uphold the Constitution. The only group that does not is the Department of Homeland Security. All the others, even the CIA, swears an oath to uphold the U.S. Constitution.
Well, Ron, I think what is also important for people to understand is that we now recognize the fact that because since the annually extended national state of emergency has put all of the laws via corporate statutes through the executive branch via executive order, which everything is now via executive order, and the Constitution has been suspended, what we know is that there's a second Constitution, and that Constitution is the corporate Constitution, and that's in the Clearfield Doctrine, which everyone can take a look at on stopthecrime.net in the USA Inc. link section to understand we do have two constitutions. And so the oath that's being taken, sadly, people believe they're taking an oath to the organic original Constitution, when in fact they're taking an oath to the corporate Constitution. It's just like pledging our allegiance to the flag with the yellow fringe around it. People don't understand what the yellow fringe is. They think it's a decoration. It's not. So I would really recommend that everybody read a very, very important book. There are many books, of course, but one that is particularly important and timely is The Great American Adventure, Secrets of America by retired Judge Dale. And he has other documents also. One is entitled The Matrix and the U.S. Constitution. Now, here was a judge on the bench for about 11 years, and was asked by his brother to help him with this IRS problem that he was being dealt with. And so Judge Dale, in researching his brother's dilemma with the IRS, plummeted down a rabbit hole and fell into reality. He was extremely depressed. For several months, he was very, very depressed because everything he had learned was not what was fact. And he decided he couldn't stay in that level of depression. He had to do something about it. He had to alert the people of reality. And he has an extremely important chapter, the last chapter in his book, The Great American Adventure, Secrets of America, on solutions for all of us, on what we can do given this corporate structure that we find ourselves in. And I know, Ron, when you talk about upholding laws, and we have many laws, but sadly we see those laws being sidestepped. And so our reality is the fact that we don't have a system that is acknowledging representation for the benefit of the people. It is a corporate statutory system. In fact, we were reviewing another document just yesterday that we'll be talking about on next week's program, and I'll just say what it is so you'll listen to next week's program. But it is a very important document that was actually signed. It was a letter involved with this document dated June 6th of 1975 that was actually signed by Nelson Rockefeller and Ronald Reagan. And it is a document that is a commission on the CIA activities within the United States, and it's known as the 1977 Federal Church Committee hearings investigated the CIA, and we'll talk about that next week. But they do talk about statutes, they do talk about executive orders, which is exactly our reality at this point. And so I want to give people hope on how we can bring back what is going forward in right conduct. We all need to make those decisions individually. We're defining who we are now as human beings, because we are in the midst of sociopaths behind the helm with all the money and the methodologies to commit global genocide through new technologies that people don't realize are committing these crimes against them. So with that, Ron, why don't you continue?
Yeah. Well, I'd also like to say that report is called the Report to the President, Ford, by the Commission on Illegal CIA Activities in the USA. Okay? And that was actually set in place after Nixon had to resign because of the wiretapping. He was going to be impeached. And then they set this investigative committee. Ronald Reagan was the former president of the Screen Actors Guild, which it'll say in this, you see his signature. He's one of the people in there. And then, of course, former governor of California. And with that, you can include that document. It's 300 pages, or 330 pages, or 329 pages. It's a lot to read, but if you want a short little, and all of that's declassified. None of this stuff is classified any longer and has been completely declassified since President Ford investigated. And there's 18,000 pages available to be ordered by any civilian that wishes to, and I believe Rents ordered that. And 18,000 pages is a lot. It comes on a DVD, right? But with that, I'd like to talk about the CIA mind control operation MKUltra YouTube video, and that is former CIA agent Mark Phillips, who married a victim of these tortures. And there's a video we can insert right now.
Yeah, we're actually going to have everyone have the opportunity to listen to that right now. It's a little over 8 minutes, and then we'll return right after you hear this important MK Ultra mind control YouTube. Thank you.
Mind sciences, or the study of human behavior in relation to the mind, is the newest of all the arts. It's less than 100 years old. And it is by far the one that is most cloaked in secrecy.
The origins of psychological warfare were in Nazi Germany, and in the Nazi ideology, they had something that was called Weltanschauungskrieg, which means worldview warfare. The idea for them was imposing the Nazi worldview on the countries that they had occupied. The Americans picked up this idea, created an American version of it, and called that psychological warfare. In trying to understand psychological warfare and in trying to understand the American approach to the post-war efforts to control people's minds, both as individuals and on a mass scale, there's a lot of illusions about how that was done. Were Nazis involved in that process? Yes, they were.
Project Paperclip was a United States government-sanctioned CIA operation for the importation of Nazi and fascist scientists into the United States. Their statement was simply this: if we don't bring these people into this country and contain them, then our enemies, the Soviet Union, will get them. The first wave was to bring these scientists. There was 700-odd propulsion scientists, and then there were some 600 and some odd mind sciences people that they brought in. The CIA was given the responsibility of actually placing the individuals out of Project Paperclip into the military-industrial complex, including our colleges and universities. Mind control was a psychological warfare weapon that Adolf Hitler regarded as the answer for taking over the entire planet. The name for the mind control research in this country was MK-Ultra.
MK-Ultra was one program of a series of programs that came out of the CIA to experiment with different types of mind control, using drugs, using electroshock, using insulin shock, and other techniques.
I think that the goal for those people who planned the program was very straightforward. It was an attempt to figure out a way to interrogate people and to learn how to protect their own agents against control by others. If you put someone in a position of being disabled by not feeding them or not allowing them to sleep or overwhelming them with sound, if you use massive shock treatment and you give people massive doses of drugs such as PCP or mescaline or amphetamines or LSD, and if you put them in periods of darkness where they can't predict from one minute to another what is going to happen next, so they're always dreading, there's no consistency to sort of what's going to happen, anybody can be put in a position of being open to brainwashing. Ewan Cameron was probably the foremost psychiatrist of his time in the 1950s. He was using high-tech sound techniques. He was using multiple kinds of loop recorders to force people to listen to recorded messages 24 hours a day for weeks on end to basically destroy people's thinking patterns.
injected the lysergic acid into the vein, and he patted me on the shoulder and said, "Now there, lassie, we'll see you later." And I started to feel very frightened, and the fright became a terror. And I sort of began throwing myself from one side of the room to the other. I didn't know what to do to stop this feeling. It felt like my bones were melting. That I just didn't know who I was anymore.
This is not just break-ins of people's homes. It's not just invasions of privacy by illegal wiretapping. This is an invasion of a person's mind. And that is about as profound an injury, except for loss of life, that the government can impose.
This was a post-Nazi program, if you will. It was an Americanization.
I've often made the statement, and I still make it flippantly. The Nazis didn't lose the war. They just had to move.
Now it's 50 years later. Now they're much more clever, much more sophisticated. They have a lot more money to spend.
His motor coordination was disrupted because of the compound's effect. Although his vision was not impaired, he found it difficult to focus his attention on the next objective. His physical actions were noticeably slower. He felt compelled to disobey his instructions.
Did Sergeant Ditches give you any instructions about what you were supposed to do tomorrow? Tomorrow? What, is today Thursday? Today's Thursday. Today's Thursday. Well.
Wars are not won on the battlefield. They're won in the minds of the people.
Okay, so we have just now listened to this very important video clip of the CIA mind control operation in MKUltra. And I'm going to bring it back to Ron, who's going to fill in some of the blanks that you may have questions after having watched this video piece. Thank you, Ron. Go ahead.
Okay. The CIA was formed out of the OSS, Office of Strategic Services. They were, as you saw in the YouTube video, worldview warfare is what the Nazis used to brainwash everybody. The Americans, as they said, use psychological operations, which employ the use of drugs via spraying in the skies. If you search U.S. military LSD in YouTube, you'll find that the U.S. military was sprayed in the 50s with LSD and another nasty drug called BZ, which is 100 times more potent. They use mescaline, other drugs on the inner cities of America to destroy the cities. Okay, this was the CIA doing this. They also brought bioweapons agents into the subways of New York City and released them in vials and in light bulbs, killing people with bioagents, making them sick, creating other false diseases with false test results from unscrupulous laboratories that are not working for the patient, they're working for the CIA. Many, in Mother Jones in 1998, she exposed the fact that many corporations that we've come to love and trust have been taken over by the CIA as far back as 1998. These would be food corporations. These would be manufacturing companies. These would be trusted and true companies, ADT, alarm companies. that are monitoring us and controlling us. And what we need to understand is everything's been filtered through, as you said, the corporation. And if you've ever seen that movie, The Corporation, you realize the corporation isn't, well, they tried to say with laws that were put in place during the Reagan years, the corporation is immune to prosecution. But we know that's not true, i.e. Ken Lay, okay, from Enron. They can hold the corporate leaders accountable for their crimes. And they have to continue doing that in order to restore our law and order. And with that, I'd like to read just one page of...
While you're searching for that page, Ron, I want to also just bring in a couple of sentences about the Tavistock institutions. And it's extremely important to understand the affiliation of major corporations with the Tavistock institutions. And you can just type in your search bar, Tavistock, Tavistock, institutions in the United States. And you'll get a list of participating institutions, such as the Walden Research. Walden, of course, is the Walmart family. The Brookings Institution, the Hudson Institution. Also, you'll find many, many universities involved, Institute for Social Research, Institute for the Future, the Rand Corporation, etc. And I think it's important to understand what the Rand Corporation has done. Many of you that are listening who have been participating in any local government meetings, again, all of your cities are incorporated. They're listed on Dun & Bradstreet. They are not serving you. They are doing business, and you are their cash cows. This is their revenue base, and that is why these climate action plans are going to be so detrimental to everyone, and why you must understand that you don't need to consent to these plans. And I know that Ron really wants to point out the fact that we have solutions, and we do.
We do.
Yeah, we do. And very quickly, Ron, I just wanted to wrap up the fact that people could go to stopthecrime.net to the Climate Action Plan link and download this corporate government questionnaire to prevent people from going into your homes when they tell you they want to make sure that you comply with the new energy standards. So again, it's a government corporation questionnaire. Download it. It's only 2 pages. And then understand how the Rand Corporation has gotten involved behind the scenes with many major institutions. This is AT&T, Chase Manhattan Bank, IBM, the Republican Party, the U.S. Air Force, on. And they've orchestrated the meeting style of which we all face now in meetings, where they have trained facilitators that manipulate the meetings, move the idea that you have public participation, but you don't. It's all predetermined outcomes. And they use doublespeak. And we're finding this in even these documents that we look at, the use of doublespeak. But to that, Ron, go ahead, because I know you were going to be making a point.
Page 19 has something to do with the fires that have taken place in California for many decades now. These directed energy weapons systems can deliver operational fires with a degree of discrimination and accuracy that is orders of magnitude more precise than conventional weapons. So it can burn down one house or a field that's dry, or even a field that isn't dry, okay, in California. By varying factors such as power and engagement geometry, laser and RF weapons systems provide commanders with the capability to achieve a full spectrum of negation effects: deny, disrupt, degrade, deceive, and destroy, using a single weapon platform. This is capability which we can achieve today, he says, in a far less precise manner only by using a variety of different weapon systems. And however, the technology by itself is insufficient. We must also evolve our doctrine and warfighting procedures to realize the full capabilities of new directed energy weapons. Okay? So with that, it also goes into Desert Storm on page 20. And then, you guys can read this document yourself. It's not a very, and it says here, we have demonstrated the Air Force in our labs and over the skies of New Mexico technologies to generate lethal beams of energy and direct them over many miles to destroy. Okay? And with that, I want to mention that Donald Rumsfeld lives in his secret bunker in Taos, New Mexico. Okay? Taos, New Mexico. And with that, I'll let...
Well, Ron, we're going to pick this up in the subscribers portion of the network. We're ending the first hour on the Pure Momentum Network, PureMomentum.net. And we certainly welcome subscribers to join us in the second hour. Again, PureMomentum.net. This is Deborah Tavares with StopTheCrime.net. And we have Ron Angell with us today, and we'll be carrying this conversation in depth into the second hour. So again, subscribe to the Pure Momentum Network by contacting PureMomentum.net, and you can listen to this program as well as go to StopTheCrime.net for our updates. So Ron, I want to thank you for being part of the first hour. We're going to pick this up here in just a moment as we get into the subscribers section of the program. Thank you, Ron. We'll be talking in just a few moments.
We invite all our listeners to join us in the members section for the second hour of all our shows. We encourage you to click on the subscribe button, choose a membership type, pay with PayPal, and voila, you're a member. Enjoy all Pure Momentum Network material, the second hour of all talk shows, extra interviews, and all archives.